What's going on, everybody? I hope you're doing fantastic as always. Today we'll be taking another look at landscapes and materials. Before we did this landscape with an auto material, so we didn't really look at how to paint or set up landscapes. We didn't really look at how to set up materials for landscapes to do painting. So we're going to go ahead and look at how to do that today. The first thing we are going to need is materials or textures, and it's important that your textures are seamless so you don't see obvious repeating patterns. Now, all the textures and materials from Megascans are seamless, so we're going to pick out a couple from there, but you can get your textures from anywhere you want if you have some that you want to make this work specifically with. It's just a little easier to use the Megascans because they're pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and grab two that I have ready, which is wild grass. We're going to add that, and we're going to do fresh windswept snow. And just those two will work for us. So those are going to go in our Megascans folder under surfaces, which is perfect. Now we can go ahead and let's go to content, and let's create a new folder here. Right click, new folder. We're going to call this material. So inside this folder, we're going to right click and create a new material. We're going to call this our YouTube landscape material. And we're going to double click that and open it up. Now we looked at the screen a little bit before with just looking at materials for our first look, and we're going to continue in that complexity a little bit today with making a decent landscape material. So the first thing we are going to want to do is right click and hit type landscape, and we're going to grab this landscape layer blend. We're going to get on here. We're going to add 2 indexes into our array. Now if you don't know what arrays are, it's like a collection of elements, and an element would be an item. So for our first point, we're gonna make our first one grass, and our second one snow. Now, what's really important here is we keep these naming conventions the same. Copy pasting them with exactly the same names, so everything lines up as it should. Now we're going to go back into our content browser, navigate to our wild grass, and we're going to start dragging in our textures. The first one is our regular texture. This one, it says, it's easier to read from here. Says at the very end of it has an N, that is our normal map. And then this weird one says ORD P. Now, like I said, I'm not an image expert, so this threw me off my first time seeing it. This image actually has multiple images compressed within it. So instead of using the RGB out, we're going to take each individual color out that corresponds to a different thing. It's a little complicated, but I'll explain it when we get there. So our RGB is going to go to grass. The normal map is going to go to grass. Roughness, or red, green, and blue are going to go to grass. And our output from grass up here is going to go to base color, normal, and then ORD-P. How do we know what ORD-P does? Well, it's in the acronym. ORD is ambient occultation. So this one's going to go to O for occultation. Occulation? Whatever. Occlusion. 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 I did it. Alright. Green is going to go for roughness. R for roughness. And DP is displacement. So that would be world position offset. So that's how that's going to look. And let's go ahead and see if that works so far for grass. So what we're going to do is hit save. And we can drag and drop this up here. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is go to our landscape. And if you do not have one, that's fine. Just create a new one. And we are just going to remove our previous material and put in the new one. If you created a new landscape, instead of replacing the old one, you'll just put in this new one we just made. Alright, so it may take a second, but then we're going to go back to our landscape mode, go to paint, and make sure we have our weighted layer blends. Oops, got huge. Okay, so we have our grass layer, we're on paint, and now we can start. If we click on grass, we can start painting our grass. Now our landscape, depending on if you change your material or create a new landscape, it may not be black and shiny. It may be looking like this right here, the grid. It doesn't really matter. This is how we paint. So let's do the same thing now with snow. So we're gonna go to our fresh windswept snow. Think about how we're gonna do this here. Okay, now we have our snow hooked up the same way. So we're going to go ahead and save and apply this. Go down to our snow material. And we can start painting in snow as well. Now let me go ahead and do a little painting because there's more I want to show you. But it'll be easier if our landscape is already painted. So let's get to that real quick. Alright, so you can see here this really doesn't look bad now that we've got it all nice and painted. The one thing you can see kind of still, even though this is a seamless texture, and this does bother me, is you can see a little bit of repeating pattern. As you can see here, the right side is darker down the line. Like if you zoom out, it just looks kind of like a repeating pattern, even though it is seamless. So we are going to fix that at the next step. Although if you are satisfied with how yours looks, depending on your material, you can stop here. And just keep adding more materials to throw in rocks or more snow, different color snow. I only did 2 just because it's easier. But the more materials you use, the better your painting is going to look. But you can see here that we're going to go ahead and take care of this. Take care of this line that appears all the way straight through, and here, and here, and here. So we're going to get rid of that. Alright, let's make this grass look better by introducing variations, micro variations. So let's grab, we're gonna need this. And you can hold Alt and left click the wire to get rid of it. Bring this over here. We're gonna hold 1 on our keyboard and get a constant scalar value. We're gonna right click and type texture coordinate. We need that. We're gonna get a multiply. If you actually hit Control D, that's another way to kind of copy paste an object, just duplicates it. And we're gonna need a lerp node, which is linear interpolate, but you can just type in lerp. Grab one of those. And the last thing we're gonna need is hold 3 on your keyboard and press left mouse button to get another constant. So let's go ahead and set this to 0.5 and start plugging everything in. So we're going to connect texture coordinate to A and our constant scalar to multiply B, connect multiply to our texture sample, and then the RGB from the texture sample to multiply A, and our constant colors value, which we are going to make white. Make sure you go ahead and do that. We want it super white to our multiply B, and then this whole multiply is going to go to our lerp A. So that looks like that. We can make it a little prettier. There we go, that's nice. Now we're gonna take this whole thing besides the lerp, we're gonna hit Control C, I'm gonna go down here and we're just gonna paste it. Now we're gonna use the green out from our texture sample here to our multiply A and change the color of our constant to green. This multiply output is going to go to B, and we're going to copy and paste the whole thing again. Except for we no longer need this multiply or color constant, and we can change this value to 0.01. And for our texture sample, we're going to want to change this to T underscore macro variation. Now don't freak out if you don't see that. Just go over here to third person map, go to your settings, and make sure you have your show engine content checked. Now we're going to take the red out from, that was weird. We're going to take the red out from here and go to alpha. Then we're going to go over to our lerp and plug that back into our layer grass. And this is our new, basically our new grass texture with micro variation. Let's go ahead and hit save and take a look. As we can see, that looks quite a bit different. It breaks it up with the patches and just kind of randomized patterns it. It has much less of an obvious seam to it than it did before. Especially when we look comparatively at one that has not been microvariated, that is seamless. This is a seamless pattern. It just doesn't look quite as good as the microvariation seamless. So we could do the same thing for the snow, but obviously instead of green, we'd want to use like gray or something like that, maybe yellow. But this is how we change the color. So let's go to something kind of obvious. Let's go to like a super burnt orange. Hit save, and boom. So you'll definitely want to choose a color that blends with whatever texture you're using for your landscape. But that pretty much brings us to the end of this video. Hopefully you were able to follow along and learn something. And if you were, hopefully I have earned your like, comment, subscription, whatever you prefer. On the other hand, we also have a Patreon if that's your thing. Either way, thanks for watching. I appreciate you all. I'll see you in the next video.